You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thank you for joining me here on our Friday review, where we're going to talk about a product that just may be better for your gut than bone broth. And I know right now, with the popularity really over the last, let's say 2 to 3 years for bone broth, that this might be hard to believe. But one of the things that I always like to share with people, we use food, certain types of foods, for specific reasons. So a lot of people right now may not even love the taste of bone broth, or they might not say like, oh, well, me drinking a cup of bone broth with a meal is not my favorite thing to do. So when you look at that, well, you're really using bone broth then as a nutritional supplement, meaning you're not choosing to eat that food because like it's a favorite food of yours. You're doing it because you've heard that by using bone broth, you can help to repair your tissue, meaning like your hair, your skin, your nails. You can get more of the glycine, you can get more of the things that your body needs for detoxification. And you can also help to repair the lining of your gut. And all of those things are true. So I'm not here to tell you today that bone broth cannot be good for your health. What I do always want to do on the Cabral Concept, the whole point of the Cabral Concept is to challenge the way that you think. Is to get you to look at things in not a black and white or just like a binary process. I'm not interested in you saying, I have to be on one team or the other. I let everybody else deal with that fun stuff, meaning like this person's low carb, that person's high carb, this person's bone broth, this person's whey protein, that person's this. That is not what health is all about. Health is about assimilating the best of everything. And if you're a health practitioner listening to this, it is my highest recommendation. It is my wish for you and for this world that we don't take teams, that we don't take sides, that we don't put on jerseys. And that what we do is we fight for what's right for people and not what's right for us or our business. So that's why I just get a little upset when I see that, oh, it has to be bone broth, or you have to do coconut oil, or you have to do keto, or you have to do any one of these things because you don't. That's the whole point, is that you don't. There's so much bio-individuality that goes into all this, is that everyone needs a starting point, but your finish line does not have to be the same as everyone else's. So, for example, is it a good idea to eliminate gluten, dairy, and other food sensitivities if you haven't done a food sensitivity test? Yes, it is. Now, in the future, could you add those back in? Absolutely. If you first get the body clean and then you start to introduce that and see if you react to it. So it's a good starting point. Some people may always have to keep it out, and some people then may eventually be able to reintroduce that. It could be once a week, could be twice a week, could be daily. It just depends on the person. So the same thing goes for bone broth. Now, there's a lot of people who are following a vegan or vegetarian-based plan, and they're not going to use bone broth. Why? Because it comes from bones, right? It comes from chicken bones. It comes from beef or cattle-based bones, and they might be using cartilage as well, like those types of things. So I want to let you know that not only is there an alternative, it could even be healthier for a lot of people. And again, that is like sacrilege for a lot of people hearing that. And I'm not looking to ruffle feathers, but what I'm looking to do is to get everyone to think outside the box. And that's because bone broth for people with histamine-based issues can be a real problem. Meaning that their eyes can get itchy, their allergies can get worse, they can get more acid reflux in the stomach. So what I want to say is what's good for one isn't necessarily good for another. And do I still, if you're on a bone broth kick and you just love it and you just love that warm cup of bone broth that you just made yourself, keep going with it if you want. But for a lot of people, it's not convenient, it's not easily accessible. And when you get it in powdered form, not exactly the same. Am I saying it's bad for you? No, I'm just saying it's not the same as the natural one that you'd be making at your home using like a gallon of distilled water, putting those bones in, and then eventually adding, maybe some carrots and celery, and you can strain it as well. So here's the thing too, is that people on my candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol aren't using garlic and onions in the beginning either, and they're not using vinegar, and a lot of people are using those to add to their bone broth. Why won't those begin in the beginning? Well, we've talked about that on previous Total Wellness Tuesday shows, and I invite you to listen to those previous shows as well, and you'll learn how in the beginning, although those foods, again, good foods at the finish line, right? Onion and garlic, great foods at the finish line, in the beginning can act as tremendous prebiotics, very high sulfur-based herbs or veggies as well. And so we don't use them in the beginning. But again, we're not going to talk about that on today's show. Let's talk about what a couple ingredients are, a couple nutritional supplements, and then I'll give you some options. Again, I always like to give you the choice. All I want to do is this. I want to put the power of your health back in your hands. It's time for you to take control of your own body and your own mind. That's the mind part is this. The mind part means that you are now willing to accept the responsibility for your health. Understanding that the doctor you go to, your PCP, can't take control of your health. They see, 20 appointments a day. That's 100 appointments a week. Like they're seeing 400, 500 people a month. They just can't do it. It's each of our responsibilities. For many, many years, I put my responsibility back on other doctors. I thought it was their job to help me get well. What I didn't understand was it was their job to give me a plan, but it was my job to then implement the plan. That no one, not my mom, not my dad, not my parents, not my friends, no one was going to do the work for me. And that actually took a little bit of time. I don't know what it was about me. That might just be a me thing, but there's probably one other person listening to this, maybe you, who just says like, okay, yeah, maybe it is now my time. Maybe it's my time now to take back control of your health. And so here's the thing. We always talk about the gut. It starts with the gut. And the reason why we talk about the gut is that 80% of your immune system lies in your digestive tract. So if you can imagine that your entire immune system essentially is around this 28 feet of digestive tract, and if that's not functioning well, it's going to lead to mood disturbances, it's going to lead to anxiety, it's going to lead to skin rashes, ADD, ADHD, depression, rheumatoid arthritis, or any autoimmune-based issue because of leaky gut, intestinal permeability. I mean, this is science-based. This isn't a naturopath right now talking to you saying like this is some type of natural health thing only. No, I go by clinical science. I'm a clinician first who reads the research, and then I'm a naturopath who uses Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, all the different variations, so that I can simply draw upon all the brilliant minds of the past and bring you these philosophies. And then it's your job to implement. So what I want to talk about right now is that in functional medicine, we have these nutritional supplements that have been clinically proven to rebuild the gut faster than anything else possible. Anything else possible. And I want to go through those with you today so that you have the choice. So if you say, oh, my digestion isn't as good as it could be or could be better. Now, this is something that I do twice a year, every 6 months, just to keep my gut strong. That's it. Again, I've dealt with this in the past. I don't want it to come back. All right, so here's what it is. 4 main products, and what are they doing? Well, we're rebuilding the gut. And when we talk about rebuilding the gut or just basically helping the gut along, we're essentially talking about your intestinal tract, your stomach. It's called this epithelial tissue. And what that means is this. It's a barrier. So when you swallow food, you chew it up, it starts to get digested. There's a lot of toxins that go along with that. And there's a lot of bacteria that starts to become fermentable in the gut as well. And all of that should not actually enter into your body. It should actually stay in the digestive tract and then leave as stool in one of your bowel movements, the stuff that your body's not supposed to use. Well, over time, because of stress, alcohol, poor food combining, food intolerances, the food sensitivities, which is why I can't recommend enough doing a food sensitivity test, taking antibiotics, taking birth control, taking Advil or Ibuprofen, any of these things can weaken that epithelial mucosal barrier, so the wall, and it can allow for those gaps inside the intestinal wall to actually open up and allow larger food antigens or the proteins from these foods to enter the bloodstream, as well as toxins, as well as candida, as well as bacteria. And then it turns on your immune system. And when your immune system's elevated, well, now we have a real problem. Because there are things that could be called molecular mimicry. There are things that can just be called a heightened Th2 versus Th1 response. And you don't have to know what this means. All it means is it starts with the gut, and we need to reseal this gut wall. We need to help it along. The other thing is this. You've probably heard of the villi on your intestinal wall. Well, those villi are actually what help to break down your food, the enterocytes, which are actually on top of them, we'll call them the microvilli, the even smaller ones. Well, they're regenerating every couple of days. But the interesting thing about them too is they're also helping to not only break down food, but they're part of the process in making your B vitamins, which are your anti-stress, energy-based vitamins. And these things also help to create neurotransmitters like serotonin. And then serotonin also helps to, in along the pathway, to create melatonin, which helps you sleep. So hopefully now you can start to understand if you can't sleep, it could start with the gut. Like everything can go back to the gut. Now, is it always the gut? No. But in the majority of the cases, it's at least one of the things that needs to be fixed. You can run a simple organic acids test. This is a lab test that we mail out to you right at your home. It's a urine-based test. Really simple. You wake up one morning, you just take a first morning urine sample, you mail it back to the lab. It's super simple to do, and it will tell you so much about your gut function. So anyway, I'm a big proponent of that. It was one of the things that helped me find out a lot about my gut. So I'm simply trying to make it available to you as well. That's your choice. Now, let's say you just want to get into healing and sealing the gut. Well, what do we need? Well, there's essentially 5 main products, and I'm even going to try to narrow it down for you because, again, my job is always to make things as simple as possible. I believe in the 80-20 rule. I've spoken to you about this before, is that 80% of your results will come from 20% of what you do. So let me repeat that. 80% of your results, the majority of your results are going to come from a very small amount of things that you do. And that's why right now people are doing so much and they're not getting results. And it's simply because they're focused on the 80% of the stuff that's only getting them 20% of the results. And that leads to frustration. My job, my experience is just to show you what works. Again, I'm a clinician. I do this in the real world. I do a podcast to share the information with you. So here's the thing as well. The 80% is essentially the food you eat and the nutritional supplements you take. If you want to get well, if you want to lose weight, if you want to do anything, it's the food you put in your body and it's the nutritional supplements you take to remove the toxins and to replace the deficiencies. That's the bottom line. I will argue that and debate that with anyone because you can talk about exercise and you can talk about more sleep and you can talk about this and you can talk about that, and they're all important. I'm not denying that. They're all important. But what's going to move the needle the most? Nutrition, the food you put in your body, and the nutritional supplements you take to rebalance hormones, to rebalance the digestive tract, to break down food better so you get more nutrition out of your food, all of those things. All right. So using the 80-20 rule, I'm going to give you the 2 top products to use to rebuild your gut. The first one, hands down, if I was to come up with a number 1, it'd be L-glutamine. If you were only use one, it would be L-glutamine, okay? L-glutamine is the main source of the cells in your small intestine and all of the tissues of your body essentially to rebuild. What does that mean? Well, it's their food. It's like intestinal food, I call it. That is how you feed the cells of your intestines and of your gut. You give them glutamine. It helps to repair the whole mucosa, which is the lining essentially, and we'll talk about the mucosa in just a minute. But it is what you need. And in times of stress, it gets totally wiped out. It's also used for detoxification. So if you're trying to detoxify right now, your body's using more glutamine. Super, super important product. My number 2 is zinc. Zinc, again, why? It's used for the immune system. It's used for tissue repair. It's used for immunity. And it's used to strengthen those tight junctions. So remember, we talked about before, leaky gut, those intestinal junctions. Zinc, along with glutamine, helps to close those up. It helps to close them up. Now, are they available in bone broth? Absolutely. They are. There's no doubt about it. But again, I like to use the best of food and I like to use the best of functional medicine. It's always been my practice because that's how I got well. My body was too sick many, many years ago to be able to even break down food properly and extract the nutrition. Bone broth wasn't really a thing 20 years ago. It wasn't as big of a thing. Now, of course, it was around and all of that, but not like it is today. Not talked about in the same way. Glutamine and zinc. Let me give you a couple others, though. A few of my favorites are DGL. It stands for deglycerized licorice root extract. All right, deglycerized. What does that mean? Well, when you take regular licorice root, it can help with the adrenals. It can extend the half-life of cortisol, which means it can give you a little bit of a boost in energy, okay? That's not bad for people in lower adrenal-based function. Not bad. I don't use it a lot, but not bad, okay? But the DGL is not going to give you the boost. Some people worry about it in terms of high blood pressure. I don't, but some people do. And of course, with high blood pressure, I'm certainly not going to use it anyways because it wouldn't make sense. Hard to be in adrenal fatigue and high blood pressure at the same time. Like anybody who knows human physiology, like for a doctor, like that just makes no sense at all. So of course you wouldn't use it either way. Now for DGL though, what does it do? Well, think of it as like this soft coating that goes over the mucosa of your stomach and the intestinal lining. It cools. So it soothes that acid, and it soothes to help create a nice protective layer. My second one that goes right along with that is aloe vera leaf gel. You always want to use the inside. You don't want to use the whole leaf. You don't want to use the outside. You want to use the inside gel. What we're looking for out of aloe vera and DGL is actually an anti-inflammatory process. So that's the best way to describe that. It's going to cool, it's going to deflame, it's going to squelch out the fire. That's the word. That's how I was looking to say that. So if you have a fire and you pour water on top of it, that's essentially what aloe vera and DGL do. They help to balance that acidity in the stomach. Really, really important. And they help to put a nice little coating, a nice little gel coating over the villi in the intestines and over the stomach mucosa to allow then for the healing process to take place. Really, really great. Now, this is more of a bonus add-on, not necessarily needed to repair the gut, but a really good one that functional medicine and research has shown to help overall to create your own natural mucosa now. Okay, so we're using DGL and we're using aloe vera gel extract to create the mucosal layer as the body's repairing. But N-acetylglucosamine, so N-acetylglucosamine is actually it's the acetyl form of glucosamine. And glucosamine, you might know for repairing your joints, right? Or at least adding a little bit of fluidity to those joints as a buffer. Well, N-acetylglucosamine is actually a precursor that's shown to then create our own mucosa. Now, why does that matter? Why does creating our own mucus matter inside of our intestinal tract? Well, if we can't create that mucosal layer, we're more prone to inflammation on that gut wall. And we're not allowing for the proper environment for healthy bacteria to thrive. And when that happens, well, yeast can overgrow, candida can overgrow, and other pathogens can overgrow inside of our gut wall as well. So those are my top 5, with my top 2 absolutely being L-glutamine and zinc. My next ones are the DGL, and they are the aloe vera extract. Really like both of those. And the last one, the icing on the cake, as we'll call it, is the N-acetylglucosamine. Together, you have a really powerful pact of functional medicine-based nutritional supplements that, in my opinion, even if you're doing bone broth, I would use this, I would say 90 days, but even if you just wanted to do it for 30 days, you can absolutely do that. Now, as always, I like to give you your options. So you could choose amazing functional medicine brands such as Thorne Research or Integrative Therapeutics or one of these amazing companies. And as always, whenever possible, whenever I've done the research and I just want to combine all these great things together for myself, again, for my family, for everyone in my practice, and for you, we created this product with all 5 of these called Healthy Gut Support. And if it seems like the right choice for you, then great. We'll link it up in today's show notes. Simply go to stephencabral.com/609. But if you're working with a functional medicine doctor right now, they'll probably be able to point you in the right direction as well. That absolutely works too. And I love people just kind of getting into their own natural health. But again, what did I mention on the show? You can do a food sensitivity test to look at your food sensitivities. You can start to eliminate the common food sensitivities. You could run an organic acids test to actually check for your mucosal barrier to see if there is candida overgrowth, to see if there's bacterial overgrowth. That's amazing. I really love that test as well. And you do a lot of tests. You check out our website this month. We did so many packages to try to just save people money. We upgraded the coaching calls to a 60-minute, just things that I'm just trying to do to help take people to that next level. And then, of course, if you just want to jump into this product because you're not going to do bone broth, you're leaning more towards the vegan-based diet, is that you can use a product like Healthy Gut Support just to help heal and seal that gut wall. One of my favorite things to do. And I know that it's going to provide you tremendous benefits. So if this show helped you today, please do feel free to pass it along to anyone that you believe it could help. And if possible, I would absolutely love it. I would truly appreciate it if you're able to leave a review on iTunes and help us to spread that message to more people so that they can learn the message that's going to help them heal their body from the inside out. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Have an amazing weekend. And I'll speak with you tomorrow on our first host call of the weekend. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.